country most probably for some time to come. Do we need more housing? Absolutely. If we don't get more housing and our population continues to increase and our confidence continues to increase, then we are going to see further pressure on prices moving upwards in both capital growth and in terms of rents.
Thank you very much, David. That's been sensational. We'll talk to you next month.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me on.
All the best.
Okay.
Now, Peter, what we haven't sort of covered off on, and we've gone for the global financial crisis. What about the political crisis?
Yeah.
You mentioned something was happening just before we went on live.
Look, on my way to the studio, I was just listening to the news, and what we've just seen is the Senate vote down the emission trading scheme.
Whoa.
Which is interesting. I guess, given what happened over the last 48 hours, that was going to happen. But I'd be interested in your comments on, I mean, this clearly could lead to an early federal election. We all know we've got a state election next year. Your thoughts on just what one or two elections, might do to our market?
Well, Pete, you and I have lived through a lot of interruptions. You've got the grand final every single year. You've got the Clipsal 500 and all of the March distractions. But the big one always, and the question mark always, as we both know, we've been through this before, is an election. Now, what we could potentially have is a state election and a federal election, potentially, running pretty much back to back.
Close together.
So that's going to be interesting, because things do just slow down, don't they?
It tends to put people on hold for whatever reason, as the GFC did last year, well and truly on hold, but federal elections, largely state elections to a lesser extent, I guess, do tend to put everything on hold for a period of time.
So look, we'll be following that with interest. But while we're on the changes to the market, this time last year, just explain to the viewers the difference between this year and last year.
Well, this time last year, being October, November, we were struggling to sell any properties, I've got to say.
Even you, Peter?
Even us, yes, even me and my team. And we were wondering what was going to happen over the next 2 or 3 months. We've recovered through that, as we've been discussing with David. The market's gradually improved, and I've got to say that October and November, and you would know this from a company point of view as well, have probably been the best months we've seen for a long, long time.
Now, we've seen record low interest rates.
Yeah.
We're seeing them climb back again. We mentioned it briefly with David. So talk to me about the impact that you're seeing, because we, and particularly you, and out in the field, you see it in the streets. Is it impacting yet? What are you thinking?
I'm thinking that in most of the market, the 0.25 basis points doesn't have a big effect on our market. I'll come back to perhaps the first home buyers market in a moment. But I think while we would all like to have seen that interest rate rise deferred until after Christmas at least, I think most of us will still be probably eating roast turkey and giving presents at Christmas time. But would really enjoy your thoughts on how it will affect the first home buyers in particular.
Right, well, I actually have a theory on the first home owners. About 6 months ago, we predicted with the wind back of the boost, the first home owners boost, and with the dropping of the rates now being reversed, by the end of the year, pretty much 2 years worth of forward purchasing will have happened with first home buyers.
That's true.
I think there'll be a rain shadow effect, and my view is the investors will re-enter the market and replace the first home buyers. They're much more difficult to deal with when you're trying to sell the property. So I think you'll see a softening of the prices next year in the 0 to 500,000. But I think the top end will hold because it just seems that way. So it's it's interesting times. So Peter, thank you for your time here today.
My pleasure.
And let's now go and look at some new properties that are hitting the market.